Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we're going to have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. Going to talk about some more Theros Beyond Death stuff. We have some more cards to talk about, and some pretty powerful ones that have been shown off at this point in time, so might as well start bringing them up. And then we obviously had an open here in Columbus that we wanted to kind of talk about our experience with and discuss the Pioneer Classic that actually happened there as well, since this is the first time we're seeing like a Star City Games held Pioneer tournament from my understanding. So, and then we have another little last bit of a segment towards the end after the competitive. So
it's part of competitive.
Yeah, it's part of competitive, whatever. So before we jump into that, I do want to give a quick thank you to all of our patrons over on our Patreon. It is at patreon.com/atyourendstep. And if you do feel like being a patron over there, we would certainly appreciate it. You help keep the old lights on for the podcast. And so thank you so much.
When do the lights become the old lights?
I don't know. Once they turn 18, I assume.
I mean, okay, those are lights that have come of age.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. You'd really have to take a look at your light bulb's lifespan at that point in time, and that depends on what light bulb you're. It's a lot of busy work, and I'm just not interested in it. Anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
So, Theros Beyond Death. So we wanted to talk about some cards. We also wanted to talk about sort of the vague story that we're getting from the actual card reveals. Which I have not been following, to be perfectly honest. Like, I know some things, but I don't know exactly like the details. Like the the underworld is leaky. I know that. I know that some of the reason why that is because of Elspeth escaping, which has caused the red-green god. I don't know how to say.
Is it not
Clothis? Clothis, to reemerge from the underworld where she was trapped, which has also caused, obviously, a lot of other things to kind of come out. And there's also like a war that's happening with the gods, and that's why they have their demigods, their champions.
That's the best I can pull out of it as well. I do like that Magic's only storyline now is, I don't know, got a lot of gods. Make them fight. Got a lot of planeswalkers. Make them fight.
Make them fight. It's just it's you playing with your action figures on Saturday morning. They're like, He-Man's gonna fight the G.I. Joes, and you're like, but they wouldn't fight. You're like, I don't care.
All I can think of is that scene in Spaceballs. Lone Star. Anyways, I at least wanted to mention it because I do think the idea of giving these little story blurbs is interesting, and there's a couple of cool ideas coming from it. I mentioned I was telling Morgan about the one for Annex Hardened in the Forge, which is the red demigod. It's a 1 red for an X3 legendary enchantment creature demigod. Its power is equal to devotion to red, and that's how they all function. Is their power or their toughness is either equal to the devotion. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 Satyr creature token with this creature can't block. If this creature had power 4 or greater, create 2 of those tokens instead. So it's got that Witch's Oven text on it.
Right.
But it says, Annex was once the legendary king of Akros, but today he is Perforos' champion in the war between the gods. Reforged to think of nothing but victory, he nonetheless repeats a single name, Cymede, which Annex is Cymede. Yeah. But honestly, that little blurb is wonderful, because that is so red, right? He's been reforged, but red has the pure strength of emotion to like that's that thing. It makes me think of House of X.
Sure.
I don't know how, if you're not familiar with X-Men, that's fine. But essentially, House of X is like the Scarlet Witch makes all the mutants in power, and they all get what they want. And the only thing Wolverine ever wanted was his memories. So he's the one who's like, Cymede. So I like that idea. And it's cool that some of these snippets work, but it's frustrating because they're giving these glimpses of, okay, there's a war of the gods. Apparently, as we saw this week, there are titans. We had a hint of that in, was it... Sealing of the Titans or the Binding of the Titans.
Yeah.
So we have this idea that there were Titans, and much like in Greek mythology, and now we have some of them, and they're literally bonkers, but we have no idea what their role is and how this all revolves around Clothis, or why this is why was Clothis in the Hell Vault? I mean, the underworld. some of that stuff's really frustrating. So
Yeah.
these little blurbs are cool, and they work better for some cards than others, like you said, like Annex. But it does leave you wanting. It just leaves you going, man, I wish this was the taste, right, that led up to the story.
Yeah. Just something. Anything, really.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it doesn't seem like, that's obviously not something that we are getting.
Yeah, we're not getting it. It's not even seems, we just aren't getting it.
Which is unfortunate, because I think there's definitely a lot that's going on. It's weird to not really have a very good story in a set that is based in a setting that has produced many good stories.
A set based on mythology doesn't have a story.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty wild. But it's going to be one of those things where there are going to be some people that are kind of left in the lurch because of this, and we'll have to turn to other resources like the Vorthos cast and what have you to kind of pick up the slack, pretty much.
I feel real bad for some of them, specifically for Jay and for Lorelei at times, because they both work in some capacity for what he's doing.
Right.
And when you can tell that they are very upset about something or very, they want to be critical, they have to hold that tongue. So it's just like, when they talked about the War of the Spark Forsaken book, they were like, this is the part where we'll let the other hosts say these things, because they can't be critical in that sense, which is probably frustrating for them, because they took those jobs with exciting hopes and have watched the Vorthos stuff kind of get, crushed this year. But
yeah.
I don't know. So I think these blurbs are a cool idea if they were combined with something. And
just anything. Not a novel or anything like that, but just what they've done similarly to other sets where they just had small story bits that get posted on Daily MTG or something. Just a further detailing of what exactly is going on. It just doesn't seem like we're gonna have a clear picture of the series of events that are causing this sort of thing. And that's, I don't know, that's always nice to know. I like to be able to look and be give a concise explanation of what's happening on the plane. And you can do that with every other set for the most part, at least recent sets.
Yeah.
But I told you in the beginning when we started talking about this, I don't know what's going on. I just know why some things are here and why some things are happening.
Vague ideas.
But I don't know much past that. So, but there are some most certainly some cards that are pretty wild that have shown up, and some of those are the Titans basically. I do think one is probably far better than the other one just due to its color pairing, and that's probably the one we'll just start off talking about. It is Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. It's 1 green blue. Legendary creature, Elder Giant. So, along with dinosaurs and dragons, we now have Elder Giants. It says, when Uro enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. And it says, when Uro enters the battlefield or attacks, you gain 3 life, draw a card, and then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you may
tapped.
Yeah,
right?
tapped.
No, it's not tapped.
It's there.
I lied.
And it has the escape cost of green, green, blue, blue. Exile 5 other cards from your graveyard. And it's a 6/6. This thing's good.
This card doesn't seem fun to me in any way, but maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know. It's certainly insanely powerful.
Yeah.
But this, I know they said that after Eldraine they were going to continue to push cards, but this is disgusting.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty. It is pretty pushed, and when you look at it, it already has a home in something like in Pioneer. There is a dredgeless dredge deck that exists within the format that is Sultai colors and could relatively easily play this. The green green blue blue.
The blue is tough.
May be a bit difficult, but
you can rework the mana base.
Yeah, for sure. And you still have things like Mana Confluence that exist in the format, so it's you may trade off some of your lands doing damage to you to be able to cast, I don't know, your 6/6 that gains you 3 life, which makes up for the damage you're already taking. So, but I mean, this card's amazingly playable in Standard. I think we'll talk. I mean, there's other things that now exist within the format. Like maybe powering this out with Escape is going to be your hardest hurdle, but there are ways that you can do it within the format, and so there's plenty of other great like blue-green options that you can look into to play this deck. And it's not like blue or green also didn't get some other excellent cards or reasons to be in those colors. So the other Titan is sort of a similar caveat. You have to escape it to cast it. I just don't think it's as good. We'll talk about it when we talk about cards more further in depth, if we feel that we need to, but I don't know. I'm not really hot on that guy. So
I want to at least mention it because I'm having a bit of an issue with Theros in general, and I don't know if you agree with me. I know we've talked a little about it in the Discord, but man, are some of these cards worded in the most obtuse fashions to serve what they want them to do. And Kroxa, the Titan of Death's Hunger, does that.
Oh, I also imagine you don't want to talk about Kroxa because, got a hungry tummy.
No, that's that one and the one that
one gape and maw.
What's the eaten one?
Yes, the
something of extinction or eat to extinction. That's what it is. Yeah, no, blank that card, man. I don't know.
Thank you.
They're trying to get me now on purpose.
big pass from Big Tears.
But Kroxa is a black and a red for a 6/6, and it matches all the same elements of Uro. But I want to make mention, it says, when it enters the battlefield or attacks, each opponent discards a card. Then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card this way loses 3 life. How many times did you have to read that statement to understand what it did?
So, I guess more than once.
I definitely had to read it more than once.
Because, I question why it was written that way. And it was pointed out it's so that if they don't discard a card, then they still lose 3 life.
Yeah, this is important for that, but oh boy, do you have to go some distance. How about a common? That's a mythic. So mythic can be a little confusing. That's fine. Get the judge to explain it to you. Alter the Pantheon. 3 mana, 3 generic artifact. Your devotion to each color and each combination of colors is increased by 1. Tap. Add 1 mana of any color. If you control a god, a demigod, or a legendary enchantment, you gain 1 life. So, ostensibly, when this is in play, you have devotion of 1 to red, blue, white, green, black. I didn't do that in order. I apologize. And then 1 for each guild.
Yes.
And then 1 for each shard.
Yeah.
And then 1 for each Nephilim.
Yeah, sure.
And 1 for all.
Yes.
Right? Each combination of colors?
Yes.
I don't understand what is happening here. I still actually don't think I fully understand this card. This is a common.
So, what it's trying to say is that when you are checking for devotion on your individual card, add 1 more of whatever that's counting.
Yes, I get that. But they are really jumping around in some really weird... And again, I sent a tweet to Rosewater. He didn't respond. He does pick and choose, which is fine, and I'm a little guy. I get it. But I asked about New World Order because I wonder about this. This set seems to really be messing with New World Order because some of the things on the cards are just rough.
To be honest, I don't know how much you should consider New World Order.
That's the point I'm trying to get to. I think
being a thing still,
based on what the play design team has said about that in the article after the banning of Oko and all these things. In these Titans, it seems like their push is probably going to push back down. Now, I'm not opposed to that. I do like complex cards. And New World Order was to benefit newer players, so I don't know. Maybe they feel like the core set coming back is enough for that. But it's just weird. There's cards like what's the enchantment? The one with the stars, enchant creature or enchantment. Enchanted permanent is an enchantment and loses all other card types. It still has the abilities. So this is an enchantment. Enchanted enchantment is an enchantment. That's literally what this would say, is enchanted enchantment is an enchantment.
Yeah, and hilariously, the card that you're referencing is also one of the playtest cards
for the mystery booster. It's exactly the same.
It is. I think it is worded exactly the same.
And of course, it works like this because it needs to be able to hit things like gods.
Right.
And I get that, but when you are designing in that narrow direction, you end up with cards that are just so functionally weird. And then you end up with your other cards having to make up for that. So things like, we talked about Heliod last week though, but like whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control, right?
Yeah.
That is an obtuse thing to have to say, but because of your god abilities and like the fact that Heliod may not be a creature when this happens, they want you to be able to put the counter on Heliod.
Right.
So and that probably plays better than it reads. Like, that one specifically plays better than it reads. But I do think that, like, there's just a lot of cards in this set that, like, I've had to read 3 or 4 times. And some cards, like, one more card I'll mention for today is the Dryad of the Elysian Grove, right? That we had, so it's 2 generic and a green for a 2/4 enchantment creature nymph. This is essentially our Centaur Courser.
Sure.
Right? You may play an additional land.
Centaur Courser.
Courser Grufix. That's Centaur Courser. Oops. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Lands you control have all basic land types in addition to other types. So, like, I mean, that's a rare, so that's fine. But boy, like, for a newer player, that's a fun one. That's a real fun one. Like, that's like the first time that you play on Moto and you've never had an Urborg play in front of you, and then it happens and you're like, what my land's doing? Like,
I think for, like, when you look at Ultra of the Pantheon and what they wanted to do, there wasn't an easy way to go about it.
I agree.
Because, like, what if this said, like, this permanent's all colors, right? Because they've done that with one of the things. Well, the thing with that is then your commander player just can't play in all their decks. So you still want your commander players to be able to play this as a mana rock in their, Heliod deck, their god
This being
deck.
all colors wouldn't work anyways.
Because it's literal mana pips,
because it wouldn't
right?
give pips, yeah.
Maybe Devotion needs a rework then, huh?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe this card is worth it. Maybe it just isn't, though. I don't know. It's probably fine, and yes, there's probably some commander players who are going to be very excited about this card. And it was probably good in Brawl, too. But it's just, like, that's a lot of text on a card. It's a thing that also references, like, gods. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot for a common. So, I don't know.
That's fine. I mean, like, we've had commons in, like, recent sets that have referenced, like, specific, like, colors and stuff like that.
Sure, I think it's a little bit different. And, like, yeah, there's commons that reference planeswalkers, but those are generally in, like, the planeswalker decks. Or the removal spells that kill creatures. I don't know. I just do think I'm not necessarily saying it's bad. I do think that some of the wordings of some of these cards are...
Oh, yeah, I don't think they read well.
The Titan is the one that's the worst to me, because I feel like that... maybe you disagree with me. Maybe, like, those listening think it was like, oh, well, come on, Mike, you're being an idiot. And maybe I am, but that card is just awful. It's just awful.
I think when you've grown used to, like, things being more elegant than they have been in some of the wordings that we see in this set, it's kind of unfortunate, because obviously elegance is nice to have when achievable, but I think that some of the cards having to be worded in a way to not sacrifice what the card can do is probably for the best, because, like, I also don't think that there's other ways to word some of these cards. And,
you're right.
And maybe that it just is what it is, but it's just like, if that's what they wanted, then that's just how it's got to be.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but I think the longer Magic goes along, the more difficult it is for them to, like, have simple cards that exist. Not saying it's impossible, but I think they want to have complexity, and they have to sacrifice elegance for it.
I don't disagree, and I don't disagree that, like the cards don't have to be clean, but I do think it does represent a possible breakdown between, like, design and like where that goes from pure design. Like I said, we literally have a playtest card here, which is, like, kind of cute, but at the same time, like, is so unbelievably weird, and just feels like maybe your god mechanic's bad, that you have to keep doing these things. Like, maybe that's the mechanic that's bad instead of trying to fix it.
I don't think I've liked any time they've actually had gods.
No, I know. They're always
perfectly honest. I think whether it's been Amonkhet, War of the Spark, or Theros, I've hated every single god that they've printed, because I think that they are just, like, permanents that stick around and outstay their welcome. Basically.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
But something to think about is, how do you think most players are getting into Magic these days, though. Do you think it's through paper? Or do you think it's through Arena?
I don't know. I would still say paper today. That may have closed, the gap may have closed a lot in the last year, but I would have a hard time believing they have good data on a true comparison.
Probably not, but I'm just
so
saying,
I'm going to
like,
say paper.
When I look at things like this, and it's like, well, this card's complex, but I'm going to drag it over my computer screen, and it's going to tell me what I can do with it, right?
That's a good point.
So maybe they aren't caring as much about how these cards look complexity-wise, because the people that are playing them on a client that's going to assist them in being able to know what they do, basically. Which is kind of an interesting way to look at some of the things that we see with these sort of weird, complex wordings. And some of them may or may not, like it just is the way that it is, but it's like, it's another kind of wrinkle to look at when you're looking at these cards that are standard cards.
Yeah, that's fair. One last thing, that's a good point. One last thing I want to say about Theros, it's not all bad here. Like, I do like some stuff. I like the tension so far. There's a lot of good gold cards that only have single pips in different colors. So it puts some nice tension on pure devotion. Like, you are going to be sacrificing between, obviously, the Ravnica blocks we still have and the gold cards here. Like, you're going to be sacrificing some legitimate power if you're going pure devotion. And I like that because I think that was a problem in our last format when we had devotion, was that you had no draw to not be playing devotion. And I also do want to say that there are some nice designs still, and I want to make mention of the first Aroan games as a good example of this. 2 generic and a green for a saga. The saga has 4 chapters. Chapter 1 is create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Chapter 2 is put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. 3 is if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw 2 cards. And 4 is create a gold token. And that's beautiful. We got a little person. That person trains. They get big and strong. They do the thing. They get gold. And I like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's one of those cards that's very flavorful.
Oh yeah, love it. That's good top down. I like it.
Right.
So there's still some good things here. I don't want to be all negative. When I read that card, I was just like, this is super satisfying to read. I just enjoyed this.
One uncommon that I think is probably going to actually get a fair amount of at least people looking at it in play is probably Drag to the Underworld, which is 2 generic black for an instant. It says the spell costs X less to cast, or X is your devotion to black. It says destroy target creature. So for the decks that want to play this, most of the time it's going to be black. Like, it's going to be an upgrade to Grasp of Darkness, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically, Grasp of Darkness is a little different, but
different kill mechanic. Yes.
There are plenty of decks that exist within like Pioneer that can be able to use this pretty effectively. I don't think this is like a card that like pushes people. Like, even though we're getting like things like Gray Merchant, we're getting things like this. I don't know if this necessarily will push you into mono black. We still don't have Thoughtseize, in standard. But certainly something that, getting a discount on this is going to be pretty nice and a very effective and cheap removal spell. So,
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do not know if I get the flavor of it, because if the Underworld's ripped open, Erebus is scorpioning you back to the Underworld, and when he looks the other direction, you're like, okay. I'm leaving.
Yeah, well, you got to catch them. Yeah. It's like Pokemon. You got to catch them all.
Yeah, but you don't leave the ball open after you catch them. You don't leave I caught you, but I'll let you have your ball now. Now don't run away.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how he runs the Underworld. I'm not here to Hey,
based on what I've seen from this set, real poorly.
Bad, very badly. It's true. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. We also need to get the new Planeswalker, but
that card's bad.
If you like enchantments, congratulations! You got an enchantment Planeswalker. It's not it's an enchantment focused Planeswalker. Excuse me. I don't want people to be like, it's not an enchantment. It's not. It would be way more interesting, to be honest, if it was. But I don't know if they could actually rectify how that works, which makes sense. But it's not good, in my opinion. It's just not. So you can read it on your own time. I don't want to waste my breath on it right now. That's how savagely I think about it. Deal with it. Anything else we want to talk about as far as Theros?
I don't.
Yeah, we'll get together our list once we get the full breakdown of everything that's coming out and discuss what we think is gonna. I mean, these are I think going to be harder to really come up with, to be perfectly honest, because a lot of these cards are going to be sort of pushed. So I guess our list can potentially get more diverse from what we talk about, which will be nice. And that's what I hope what happens is we just talk about more cards in general. But you know, there are definitely some front runners from what we've seen so far. So. More on that later. Before talking competitive, we do want to give a quick shout out to Comic Town, our local sponsor here in Columbus, Ohio. They're going to be making some changes in 2020, so if you are a local player, be sure to keep your eyes on their website, which is worldofcomictown.com, or Facebook actually, to see they have their new store hours updated, so be sure to take a look at those, and then obviously new events that are going to be coming down the pipeline here in 2020. So, competitive. We, of course, had the Columbus Open hosted by Star City Games here over the weekend, and Mike and I were both in attendance. I didn't play the main event. I just played some Pioneer and had a good time. But, Mike, you did play the Open with former host of the show, Dave, and former guest of the show, Elliot. And you did have a good time.
No, we did real bad. We went 3 and 2. No, 2 and 3. Yeah, okay. Because we dropped in a third loss. 2 and 3. It was not Unified Modern.
Yeah.
I played Bant Snowblade. Dave played Mono Red Burn Prowess. It was like a hybrid of the two. Mm-hmm. Not full prowess, but kind of.
Sure.
And then Elliot played Grixis.
It was like 4-color shadow.
But it's like not traverse shadow.
Yeah,
so it's like a slight splash. And it was fairly interesting. I beat up on every deck that wasn't Urza. And then I just did not do well against the Urza decks. Had some like rough draws with it. I only cast 1 Oko in the event. I played 4. So like that was, they cast many Okos. I did not. That's how that went. But honestly, like the first 2 rounds I played against Infect and Grixis Death Shadow, and those were just fun. They were back and forth matches. And then I played Urza after that. And it was just miserable. It's just miserable. We tested the matchup a fair amount too, and like it's certainly winnable. I did not win those matches, but it is winnable. Just like you really feel like you are behind it pretty much all the time. Like it is. The deck is frustrating and disgustingly good. And Oko's disgusting. Dave did pretty middling with the burn deck. He had some frustrating things happen. Like, we're talking small sample sizes here, but like he played against Urza and got turned 2 Oko'd multiple times, which was a reasonable expectation when playing the deck and couldn't recover from it. He got chaliced by humans.
Yeah, which is not unheard of, but definitely uncommon.
Yeah. So it was we must have been 3 and 3 because we played 6 rounds, right? I'm trying to think here. I played against 6 decks. I don't know. We played 6 rounds. So, anyways, though, and then Elliot did the best of us playing the Death Shadow deck. He played against like ramp decks, like 4 out of the 6 matches, something like that. He also played against Niv Mizzet Reborn, so that was interesting. But he did pretty well against those decks. Honestly, we had a pretty frustrating one in round 2 where he was our deciding match, and like they were in turns, and essentially like we knew all the cards except for 1 in our opponent's hand and his draw for the turn, and he drew a second Scape Shift after having the first one thought seized. And if he just honestly draws anything else there, we just untap and win. Right. So it's just one of those things. So the deck plays the card for that reason. But so we had some close matches. I enjoyed playing with them, but man, the matches against Urza are just so unfun, and the format just felt like we played against a lot of teams with similar decks, and just like the diversity is really gone, and it was tough. Yeah,
I mean, just from stopping over and watching your matches, whenever they were happening, it looking at the decks you were playing against, I was like, I don't want anything to do with this format. Like, I definitely came over when you were losing hardcore to like an Urza deck, and I was like, this is miserable.
Yeah, he was just spinning Urza multiple times a turn.
He just like
he cast 3 of his Okos off of Urza spins, and I was just like, I have those cards.
And I was like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with this format. And that's unfortunate because, like, if you are a longtime listener to the show, like, there were times when we couldn't stop talking about Modern. And it's gotten to such a negative place that didn't change. Not saying that people were necessarily, like, expecting something to happen on Monday, but, like, people also wouldn't have been surprised if there were, bannings in Modern that happened. No bannings in Pioneer, by the way, which I think honestly makes sense for the most part. Who knows when they're actually going to, like, do anything about this format. And I just don't think they're incentivized to either, because they don't have anything big Modern-wise coming up in their own, world. They don't care about what Star City Games or what have you has going on, but it just didn't look fun. And if you have fun still with this format, then, like, I'm happy for you. But I think it needs to change, and there needs to be a reckoning of some persuasion with Modern, to be perfectly honest. I think there's a lot of things that need to be modified with that format before they just kind of, like, let it go. And it feels like they're trying to just let it go. Yeah,
I hope they don't. I literally got rid of my Okos on Saturday.
Yeah.
So I don't know when the next time I'll play Modern. Anyways, like, my wife is due here in March, so yeah, I'm not traveling for a Modern tournament. Let me tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like it's not. Obviously not on the table, and I just think, like, it sucks. To be perfectly honest, and I wish that it wasn't that way, and I wish that we could still be, like, the champions of Modern. But my interest in the format has been gone since Urza, like, started to be a thing, and since I just noticed that if you want to be successful in the format, you legitimately just should start learning, whatever the most broken Mox Opal deck is, and then you'll be fine. You'll always be fine if you can master that deck.
Well, let's pause there, and we'll come back to Modern and talk about those cards.
So Mike did come back on Sunday and played Pioneer, and I, like I said, played Pioneer on Saturday. And I really enjoyed myself. I played in 2 of the challenges. For the first challenge, I played the current version of the mono black aggro deck. The deck seemed perfectly serviceable. I went 2-1-1. I just drew with my last round opponent for tickets or what have you because they offered, and I was like, okay. But what did I? I'm going to have to really rack my brain.
You played Mono Black Aggro and you played Blue-Red.
I played Blue-Red and Soul in the second challenge.
Yeah.
And that deck, I almost cursed. Almost did a curse right there.
Oh.
That deck's sweet, though. I really enjoyed playing that deck. That deck, I know that I lost to Red-Green, aggro, playing a bunch of Rabble Masters and Embercleave, which Embercleave gets you dead real quick.
That card does.
And when you don't have good draws to counteract it, I think I mulled to 5 one of the games. It's just like you can't do that. You gotta have your shock for the Rabble Master, and it kind of just stretches you a little bit too thin. They're just a bit faster than you when you're playing Izzet and Soul. But I hadn't played a game with Izzet and Soul and went 3-1 in that challenge, so that felt like a pretty good instance. I played a bunch of different decks, though, in the format, to be perfectly honest. I played against a blue-white control deck that was not the typical build. They were playing Fave Wishes
I saw a little bit of that match.
So they had, I think they were the version that was playing Second Sun, Rise of the Second Sun,
Approach
the Second Sun. And I played against blue-white Monument, which played against that playing Mono Black Aggro. That's not a good matchup for Mono Black Aggro, I'll tell you that much. What else? I played against Mono Black Vampires in the second one versus Izzet and Soul. I didn't play... I played against the Mono Green Aggro deck twice with Izzet and Soul. I think that's an easy matchup. Play against, I think that was round either 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. But my sideboard had Roasts in it. It had 2 Aether Gusts in it. And it's just whew. Depending on what you were playing against, Aether Gust might have been a good main deck choice because we have mono green in a couple variations in mono red being very popular as well in the format. So, but those felt really powerful against those, along with, like I said, roast and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think Pioneer, like, if you are someone that appreciated like how Modern used to be, and I think this is probably, I was literally talking to the people that I was playing against, and I was like, I'm sure people said this about Modern when it first came out, was like, oh, it's so open, you can just play anything. And, that's what Pioneer, continues to feel like. And I'm going to try and enjoy it until that changes. And that's pretty much how I never played against a mono green ramp deck with either of the decks that I was playing.
I don't like that deck.
You know what? I don't like that deck either, to be honest. And this was like kind of the table talk that was happening during these challenges. It was like, yeah, I mean, that deck could stand to go down a peg. But what do you hit?
I don't know. I do. We talked about it a little bit last week too, and I played the Blue Red Dragons deck on Sunday in the Classic, and I lost to Red Green Aggro in some pretty gross games, and I lost to the Ramp deck. And like there were 3 games, there were matches for sure, but like the mono green deck, like just. Man, if you are a deck that isn't just trying to outright race that deck, I don't know how you ever win. Like everything in that deck has either a cast trigger or an ETB trigger or just like some amount of value, and it ramps so easily. Like I lost a game against that deck where I killed their Mana Dork, countered their first 2 spells, and like had a threat on 4 and 5, and still just like couldn't beat the Cavalier of Thorns into the Ugin. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Just like it's like okay, like I tried. So I tried that game. It's tough, and I don't know what the right answer to that is. Maybe just ban Forest and fix Pioneer and Standard for everybody. But
it's just the way that deck functions, and the way that they've tried to combat like traditional ramp decks. They don't go hand in hand.
No, they really don't. And it's also awkward because like you're playing like you want to play like Aether Gust against them, but then like half their spells are colorless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't Aether Gust, World Breaker, obviously Ugin, Ulamog.
Yeah.
So you end up in like these weird positions where like you can't tempo them. You know what I mean? Like, I was playing, 4 Brazen Borrowers and like could not out tempo the deck because like everything just has too much value.
Right.
So it's tough, and like obviously the answer is just say, well, play decks that beat it, right? And maybe that's what it is. Maybe the format then starts warping to get really, really fast.
Yeah.
But I even don't know how successful an answer that is. Those decks are pretty resilient to some of those strategies. So.
Oh, like 100%. Like, I don't think that necessarily there is. We'll take a look at. We're going to talk about the tournament we're going to talk about this week is the Classic, and it was won by Mono Red. Theoretically, and we don't know if they drew. Here's the thing: like we don't know how this actually shook out or what have you. But in first place, at least it says mono red, and in second place is the mono green ramp deck. Now, something I did want to bring up is something that is coming in the next set is a new card, which is 2 generic and a blue for a counterspell called Whirlwind Denial. It's an instant. It says for each spell and ability your opponent controls. Your opponent's control. Never mind. I just couldn't read for a second. Counter it unless its controller pays 4. Now that's something to potentially be able to stop the first sort of barrage. They can outpace that for the most part. But at the very least, you are getting that trigger as well as that spell.
Yeah, and that's certainly interesting. But you're still being asked to pay 3 mana.
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong.
You have to hold that up if you're not just a straight control deck. So. I don't know, and I think this is the deck too that you got to be careful with because you're looking now like this version had 1 and 3 in the board, but like this is now the deck that's also playing Thought-Knot Seer.
Oh
and
yeah,
like this is where like the Eldrazi just start getting disgusting. So I don't know. I think one of the lands would be a safe hit out of this deck, and I think it could be Sanctum of Ugin, which would help reduce the redundancy in the deck because they're able to crack that pretty consistently. Maybe that's not enough. I don't know, but I think that's a place you could hit. But man, I got done dirty by an Oblivion Sower. Like I had a Chandra going and like was ticking up, and I exiled 3 lands with it, and they were able to
just
sower into World Breaker the same turn. So it was just like, okay, like you got them.
Yeah, it's a deck that exists that I'm not sure like without just like taking away a lot of their threats because they are like just good. They're just good. And I don't know, like it's just so weird because I keep trying to like think back about when this sort of deck existed in standard with a lot of the threats that they're playing right now, and like what was done about it, or what is the thing that is present now that wasn't present back then. And I know that I talked about it last time, but I'm just like it's just like a blank spot in my brain.
It's in this one. It's the 8 1-drops.
Yeah, but like
you didn't have access to any 1-drops when this deck was in standard.
None that like put a land into play. You
didn't have Elves Stick or Land Wells.
None that
right.
mana.
And you certainly didn't have Gilded Goose, which is obviously shown to be insane. And like Grazer is great in this deck. It really is. Like it gets the land into play, so it can't be interacted with like a Mystic can, and it just blocks. Like your mono black aggro deck you want to race, great. I'll block every 2/1 you got.
100%.
So it could just be the 1-drops that are so good here, and like. I don't know what you do here, because if you got rid of the 1-drops, then they would just have Mystic and Land Worlds. Like this build that took second place already isn't playing that. But that is a huge difference. And honestly, the card that's quickly become a 4 on all these lists is Cavalier of Thorns.
Yeah.
And that card comes down on 3 pretty consistently and is disgusting, like how much value it gets. Because like, even if you manage to kill it, there's a good chance they put their next threat in the graveyard.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer to this is. Maybe the format works itself out. Maybe this mono red aggro deck that I know you've played some of this deck or versions of this deck. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's enough. But we'll see. I'm still enjoying modern Pioneer. I picked up all the rest of the cards for my blue-white monument deck. Shout out to the guy that you played. I was so excited. I was like, this is the deck I've been brewing with this whole time. And like we kind of gushed over like how good Charming Prince is. And did he have Angel of Invention?
Not that I saw.
Okay.
He was definitely playing the Azorius 4-drop that gained you 3 life.
I have those in the sideboard.
Yeah, he was playing those. I don't know if they were main or side, but
that card's very good.
Yeah, that monument deck, like if you're playing another like creature deck, you don't want to play against.
That deck just goes way around you, and then if you're playing anything bigger, it just blows you out with Dusk Dawn. It's so great.
Yeah. It is definitely something you have to like heavily consider when playing against what you're doing as far as what's happening on the board, because there's a lot of ways things can just go real wrong. Just go real wrong. So when looking at the other classics, in 3rd place we have Luke Strassler playing Azorius Control here. And this is very similar to, I think this might be exactly the list that Aspiring Spike plays and has been popularizing online. But this is, what people have considered to be sort of the best deck in the format. This is the kind of deck that exists. It allows things like mono green to flourish because they can feed off of these Azorius control lists, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I think these lists, like, they exist in a sort of good spot within the format, and they were popular. People were definitely playing them in the challenges that I was in as well. They were playing different variations of them. I think this is the version that I would play. It has a lot of like good interactions. You have ways of winning that are kind of absurd, like Narset and Gyro Reach Sanitarium, which is dirty. That's a dirty interaction.
That really is.
And it happened. So I think one of the dirtiest things I think I saw happen in a challenge was Narset and Days Undoing. I don't know if it got cast or it was definitely in someone's deck though, and they were trying to do that. It's like, oh, okay, cool. This is what we're doing here. Like, you draw 7, I draw none. Great, great. We have Liz Lynn in was this 4th place?
Yep.
Playing another version of the mono red mid-range aggro deck. She's a little bit of variation. She's playing like Comrade Garrison as another 3-drop of choice. But all these lists have like minor variations, but sort of the same, core of what they're really trying to do. We have a standard deck in 5th place, which
that's hilarious. A friend of mine lost to this deck in the early rounds. Yeah, this is standard food like sacrifice with hangerback walkers and a better mana base. Just a little bit better.
Yeah, like
Blooming Marshes.
Yeah, because you have Blooming Marshes. That's your only non-standard legal card. And you do get Thoughtseize in the sideboard.
Hangerback Walker. They have
Hangerback Walker, yes.
Yeah.
But as far as the mana base.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hangerback Walker.
No, I think they could have played a different mana base, but like this seemed like I'm going to play my modern or my standard deck and make minimal changes.
When you have shocks in legal and standard, it's hard. Like, this is kind of your 3-color mana base that you would be looking at. I mean, you don't have another fast land to really lean on.
Yeah.
Because both of the other ones are not legal.
Yeah.
And like the only thing that I would question is like playing Fabled Passage, but they work so well with what you're doing that you're kind of priced into it as using it as like a utility land more than just like genuine, fixing. I mean, it is fixing, but with 3-color like stuff like this, it's rough. It can be rough for what you're trying to do. It sucks when you have an opening hand of like 2 Fabled Passage, you Gild the Goose, and you're like, cool. What have I done?
Apparently top 8 in classics.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes it works out. And it's not that big of a deal, but there's a price to pay for stretching your mana base like that. We also have Hardened Scales, played by AJ Grinke. And this sort of is the combination. Oh no, this is actually a new variation. Sorry, I was looking at it. I saw like they were playing 2 different planeswalkers, but this is a little bit of a different twist on the whole thing. We see like Slitherhead as being a 1-drop of choice, as well as like Lawless Troll showing up as well to complement sort of the other X artifact creatures, your Winding Constrictors and things like that. You are playing Nisses, but you're also playing Vraska Golgari Queen, which is definitely a good Magic card. Just kind of another access to sort of a grindy mid-range card that also acts as a Abrupt Decay. And then your Hardened Scales and everything like that. This deck is like sometimes it seems like the best thing you could be doing in the format, and other times it's just like nowhere to be seen. So I never know where to fall on this sort of deck. It still feels like just I don't know. It may have like a good opportunity to like just get bigger than a lot of the other decks, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel like fast enough to really challenge Mono Green Ramp. I wonder what the matchup for like its mono red aggro matchup is, because maybe your creatures get too big to kill.
Yeah, and things like Hangerback Walker are pretty good against those decks.
Yeah, so maybe that's where it's finding its avenue of attack. But
I would assume so, because it doesn't really devote a lot of sideboard slots to.
Yeah, and it's just like a good synergistic deck as well. So. In 7th place, you have Aaron Wyant playing Mono Black Aggro, which is similar to the list that I played. I think I played 4 Dread Wanderer. I didn't play any Gutter Bones. I played 3 Rankle, and then I played 1 Cletus in my main deck, and his Cletuses are in the sideboard. We both played 4 Leyline of the Void, because the Sultai Graveyard deck is something you have to take into account. But everything else here looks pretty similar. He had 2 Grass Ozarkness' main deck, and I don't think I had those. I think I just had more creatures, maybe. But it shows that this deck is still viable. I still think if you want to play like a low to the ground aggro deck, I think this is what you're playing. If you're trying to like 1-drop people out of the game, I think this is what you should be doing in the format, because you get access to Thoughtseize and Fatal Push, and like those are great Magic cards. And then in 8th place, we have Zan Syed playing Hardened Scales as well. So, and they are playing the sort of combination of Devotion and Hardened Scales. Sure. Because they have Vivian Arcbow Ranger, which is just like a good card. They aren't really leaning hard into Devotion. I think like their previous list did. Maybe had like a Nykthos or something like that. It was what they played in like the Invitational, which was a long time ago at this point. So, but you have like your elves that you're playing to like curve into some of the stuff. So
right. At least we'll mention one other list in 11th place by Clayton Cardinal, the Black Eldrazi deck.
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly interesting, playing Thought-Knot Seers, Reality Smashers, the Kalidas Murderous Riders, Matter Shapers, Ugin, Liliana the Last Hope.
6-mana Ugin,
Yeah,
right?
Ugin the Ineffable, which is pretty good with things like Reality Smasher.
Yeah.
Costs 2 less. I thought it was fairly interesting. It also just gets to play like Assassin's Trophy, and its green is like Land War Wastes and a lot of Fabled Passages. So I think this is a fairly interesting deck. I think that Kalidas is just a card that's really good against a lot of the format right now.
Yeah.
And like so it was like Thought-Knot Seer, to be quite honest. A lot of the removal is like 3 damage or 2 damage based right now. So
yeah, it's hard to kill, like, have a main deck answer to it.
Fatal pushes are things, but but like those aren't nearly as easy to like.
No, they aren't free.
Like they are much easier to sniff out in this format than they are like in Modern. So
yeah, I mean most of the time you're playing like the mono black aggro deck, like you're surveying creatures that are, and like. For a lot of the time, you know, it's the reason the deck can be successful is because you can serve in with your creatures and you can get buy back, right? So like you know, even if you are like just trying to enable that, like they can't block. So what else are you doing with them, right?
Right.
But yeah, this is a pretty interesting, you know, take on the format. It's another, you know, Thoughtseize Fatal Push deck that is just going bigger basically,
right?
And being able to play things like Gifted Aetherborn and stuff like that is pretty important. So, yeah, what this deck is doing is pretty cool.
Agreed.
Another deck that I didn't get to play against, but does show up here in the top 16, is the Lotus Field combo deck. So that's not a deck that I've played against yet. At this
it's
point,
not fun to play against. It's just a big time waste.
Yeah, exactly. But any other decks from the sort of the top 16 to really look at or talk about? We have a couple repeats, but there are a lot of like, you know, genuinely unique lists, and even the repeats have variations to them. So again, the format in like what you see here isn't even like the whole story. I played against a lot of different decks throughout the week, throughout the day on Saturday, and saw a lot of different decks. There's definitely a guy that was playing a artifact deck and got to play 3 Metalwork Colossuses in one turn.
Oh, well,
so
all right.
There's some wild stuff that you can do in this format. I don't know if it's all good, but you can do it and maybe find success with it. You know, there are still decks that are worrisome, but we'll kind of have to wait and see how the format shifts, and if they do make any other changes going down the road, we of course won't know about them before they happen. But you know, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But on its face, I'd rather play this format than Modern. Like, there's decks that I can go in and know that I can be successful with and have fun with, which is the other important aspect of it. And yeah, I just had a good time. Like, I spent my money and had a good time playing Magic, which I knew that I wouldn't be able to do if I played Modern. So
fair enough. Well, let's shift into my pseudo game show.
Yeah.
You're just going to get me doing a bunch of random segments now as I try some things out. But
that's fine.
We're going to play.
2020. We're
going to play Rank That Band.
Dun-dun-dun.
Okay, I was going to say this is where the theme music gets good. All right, so there are 3 cards that are currently getting a lot of heat from players in Modern, and we talked about them a little bit. That would be, in no particular order, Oko Thief of Crowns, Mox Opal, and Urza Lord High Artificer. Some stats. Oko was playing 8 of the 10 most played lists in day 2. Mox Opal and Urza were in 3 to 5. I didn't check every single list. Oko was in all 3 winning lists, though. And it was also in Kevin Jones' classic winning Bant Snowblade deck. So, here's the way the game works, right? We have 3 cards that we think are ban worthy, right? Only 2 can get banned in the game. Okay? You have to rank that ban. So 1 and 2 get banned. 3 lives on to get banned at another day. So Morgan, how do you rank that ban?
See, I think I think Oko is 0, right? Oko has to be 0. Oko doesn't even deserve to get ranked.
Oh, listen, he's trying to get all 3. He's trying to get all 3.
Because, like, we know
he said Oko straight to hell.
Yeah, no. It's have you seen the comic?
Does Oko go to, like, regular, like...
Oh, no. So I was going to say, have you seen the comic that's like, it's like a little cartoon guy in hell, and it's like the front desk of hell, because obviously hell would have a front desk.
Yeah, definitely a bellhop.
And then they're like, oh, what are you here for? And they're like, oh, I did this. And they take him down the stairs, and it's like the real hell, like the real bad hell. That's the hell that Oko goes to.
Oh, I thought he just went to hell.
No. Maybe once it gets there, it starts changing things. But
sorry for all the heck talk, everybody. I'm so sorry.
But
no, you don't get to cheat the game.
But we know what's going to happen.
Don't cheat. Rank that band.
All right. Well, then Oko's number 1.
Okay, I'm going to agree. Oko is also. This is like now we're doing some like Family Feud type stuff. Like show me number 1 answer.
Yeah, it's Oko. I mean, it's already banned in Standard. It's already banned in Pioneer. It should have already been banned in Modern. And, like, again, this is what makes us feel like the format's kind of been, left behind a little bit, is because, like, they just haven't. And they haven't pulled the trigger on it. And it's like, there's no reason for them not to. Like, just do it.
Yeah,
other than like very negative reasons that people want to say, like they still want to sell packs or what have you. And, like, I don't want to have that to be the reason, but, like, at a certain point in time, how else are you going to start thinking?
I think, at least in my mind, I think it has a good chance of coming next Monday or at least in this month. Yeah. The reason it wouldn't have happened yet is they have talked about how they have tried pretty hard to take into account what's going on in the format. And if you look at the beginning of this year, quite literally we had SCG Columbus, which is Team Modern, and then you have Knoxville, which is... also Modern, and you have Magic Fest Austin, which is also Modern this coming weekend. So maybe they took into account and said, okay, people don't have time to get a new deck right at the beginning of the year. We'll do these 2 events, and then we'll ban Oko. That's my only argument for why they haven't banned Oko yet, is because people already have made travel decisions. Now, of course, the flip side of that is if they're really worried about people making travel decisions, then they wouldn't make bannings random, but I can't fix everything all at once during our game show, Morgan.
All right, fair enough. All right, so if we both agree on that, what's your number 2?
That, I think, is the tougher question.
I absolutely don't think it's a tougher question, but I want to hear your answer first.
Okay, fair enough. My answer is going to be Mox Opal.
Yeah, that's 100% my answer too.
Okay, I want to make sure.
I like here's the thing, like Urza sucks and like is not a great card to have exist in the format. I won't disagree with you on that portion, but Mox Opal has lasted for far too long and needs to go. Like it is a card that is hidden behind the idea that you have to construct your deck in a certain way so that it works. And it's just like, no, clearly you've put so many things in the format that the hoop that you have created for this card is the same like size as a like tunnel through a mountain. Like that's what it is. So like it's not difficult to have this in your deck. It's not hard to build around. It's very easy. Get rid of it.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this last week, but the current slate of the blue-green Urza decks that are no longer trying to combo and are literally playing Mox Opal. Hey, light the cheese on fire. But are just playing Mox Opal as like a value card that sometimes you get turned to Oko and sometimes you just flip to Emery and look, I can do this. Like, I think that tells you where you need to be because people are like, oh, you're only doing these dedicated decks. Well, one, the dedicated decks for those outside of literally Affinity, which is so dead it hurts.
Yeah.
Right? That like are never doing it fairly.
Right.
Right? But then beyond that, like you have just this deck that's just like, no, I just play the 0 card. And we could argue that maybe they're just gonna play, Mox Amber then, but fine. Let them play the worst one.
Yeah.
Like let's let them play the one they can't turn on turn one.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they can't turn on turn 1. I don't know.
They probably can.
They can probably Emery it out.
Yeah, 100%.
Never mind. I don't care anymore.
So
Urza goes into 3, and I do think Urza might be okay in the format if those other cards are banned.
Maybe. Probably not still.
Probably not, but maybe it's easier to interact with.
Yeah. Maybe.
Let me ask you this, since we're ranking that ban.
Yeah.
What card's number 4?
What card's number 4? You know what? There's been such a intent like of there being just like a boogeyman in the format in the form of like Oko / Urza. It's not something that has been present on my mind, and I've sort of been detracted from the format a little bit. But you have to look towards some of the other common complaints, right? So what happens if we make these changes? What happens if we make these shifts? And I still think the fourth is Ancient Stirrings.
Yeah, I think that's very... Man, you're good at this game, Morgan.
Yeah.
Good job. Proud of you.
So Ancient Stirrings...
You win very little.
No,
I'm
nothing
so sorry.
at all. I understand. Yeah, Ancient Stirrings, because you make those bans, you make those changes, then you have to look at the decks that are going to like be benefited by that, which are probably going to be Tron and Amulet Titan, right? So I think like by putting the other card that has probably existed far too long in the format, putting it to rest in Ancient Stirrings is probably the best move to make. So, but that would be my like idea. I think all three of the cards that we mentioned. I still say Oko's like ban 0. Like
no, I think that's very obviously true when you look numbers wise, and I think it's the slam dunk ban. But I would like to see them do some fourth rate bans. I think like Oko and Mox Opal make a lot of sense to me. I can see them not wanting to hold off and see if Urza can do something different, maybe more fair. Maybe without Opal and Oko, or like it doesn't have to be fair. Urza can be a combo card. I don't care. Like that's fine. It's still a 4-mana card that a blue deck has to tap mana for on their turn. Currently though, they don't really have to do that. Right. So, or at least not a lot of it, because they generally can play it. They can play it on turn 2. They do.
Yeah. Another card that you could probably make a genuine case for banning is Arkham's Astrolabe.
So I was going to mention Astrolabe. My only issue is I think specifically once Oko and Opal are out of the format, Astrolabe becomes fine.
Yeah.
I think some of the snow decks could still play it, but wouldn't really need to. It's being played right now because of how well it interacts with Opal and like turning on Metalcraft, but also with Oko as an artifact that's already on the board for like the Bant Snowblade decks to make a 3/3 with. Yeah. So I think that card, and we know it from Pioneer, or from Pioneer. Man, I can't get formats right today from Pauper.
Yeah.
But I do think that it becomes nothing. It becomes a non-entity in Modern if Opal and Oko are gone. Maybe it still sees play in the Urza decks, but it certainly can't do what it's doing now.
Sure.
And again, I still think part of this fix too could be an unbanning, and I know that you'll hate me forever, but I'm gonna. And my ending to the game show of Rank That Ban, you won the prize. You chose between 2 doors, and unfortunately, the door that you chose was unbanned Splitter Twin. So.
So here's the thing, like with Theros Beyond Death coming out, we are going to have another turn 4 combo that's going to be entering into Modern. That's going to be entering into Pioneer, in fact. So like they're just going to have a whole. It's not. I'm worried for when Theros Beyond Death comes out, because I think like we're going to be like, oh, finally Oko's just out of all our formats, and then it's going to be like, cool. I hate dying on turn 4 to Heliod Ballista.
Yeah, I want to. That's a probably topic for a different day.
100%.
I do want to make mention of the people who are like, oh, it's so easy to interact with. It requires a removal spell. Are the same people that are probably okay with Splitting Twin being banned.
I know,
right?
exactly.
So like it's just like okay, and they're like, well, that's not a blue deck. Oh, well, okay, but like. So you just can't tap out on 4. It's the same deck, man.
Please do not make the argument that the deck that only requires one color is not a blue deck.
Yeah.
Because the other color they could play is blue. Wild, they could have a 2-color deck in Modern.
Yeah,
that just kills you on turn 4. Neat. Wow. Okay.
Oko?
No.
So okay, well, congratulations, Morgan. You have won. Rank That Ban. Hopefully, you'll be rewarded with accurate bannings.
That'd be great. I'd like that.
I know it's like a weird game show, and I know there's some people who really don't respond to bannings. I would hope that if you are a person who's like, the format will correct itself, you will see now the format literally can't.
It's impossible.
People keep trying. You see people on like Magic Online they have like jumper cables in their computer, and they're like, come on, Modern, and it doesn't work. Oko has broken everything. I wish to go back to the episode where you argued with me and said that Oko wasn't.
I think about that from time to time, and I regret my words that I said on a recorded mediums that exists forever.
Yeah, that's just like that forever. Great evidence.
My only saving grace is that we aren't really that popular, to be perfectly honest. Small audience, truthfully. And most of the time, people will go back. They'll go backwards and listen to us. So, like, there you go. Anyway, that's going to be our show for this week. This weekend, as aforementioned, we do have SCG, as Mike put it, Johnny Knoxville, which is going to be modern, and then we have GP Austin as well, and that is also modern. So, oh boy, can't wait till next week.
If you enjoyed this weekend, just wait, and if you didn't, wait longer.
Oh, we probably will also have a show next week because I will be in sunny Florida.
Yeah. And here's the thing: I could try and put something together. I'm not going to. So
fair enough.
So
sorry, I'm going to be on real vacation.
Yeah, he's gonna go riding that Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I'm gonna go build a lightsaber, and I don't care how you feel currently about Star Wars. I'm gonna have a good time.
Yeah, no, please enjoy yourself.
So, thank you again for listening, everyone. If you want and can, if you are listening to us via an app that lets you leave a review, we would appreciate it. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us via multiple methodologies. We have Twitter, it's your NSTEP, and when you add us, it'll be at your NSTEP. We have an email address at yournstep@gmail.com, and then finally we have Facebook, facebook.com/@yournstep. Thank you so much to Legit MTG for hosting the show. So if you came to the show via them, be sure to check out some of the other articles that they have on there, as well as their online store. And of course, a shout out to our local sponsor, Comic Town. They can be found at worldofcomictown.com. And again, they have new store hours, so if you're local and are a customer, be sure to check that out. And last but not least, thank you so much to our Patreons over at our Patreon. And you can find that at patreon.com/@yournstep. But that is going to be everything for us this week, and we will catch you next time. You have a great one. Bye.